If you want to know what a hedgehog nest looks like, I can show you. I've actually got two of them in my garden, which is a real privilege. And also I'm going to give you other ideas of how to look after wildlife all the way through the winter, right through till spring. I never knew before what a hedgehog nest looked like. And it was only a couple of years back when I was clearing in the autumn time, I saw these big mounds of leaves and twigs and all sorts of kind of strange debris. And I thought, I don't remember doing that. But actually, when I looked into it, I realized these are hedgehog nests. This is what they create so they can hibernate through the winter time. They create these big mounds of leaves and twigs and all sorts of bits and pieces. And I've actually added more on top of this as well, just to keep that hedgehog nice and warm and secure underneath. And when they come out in the spring and you remove this, you actually see they've made like a little sort of scoop or a little depression in the ground where they snuggle right down underneath all those leaves and moss and goodness knows what else, and just protect themselves all the way through to the warm weather in spring, when these gorgeous little creatures will come out and eat all the slugs and snails and be my little gardening friend again. This one's not for real, but it'd be great if it was. I've got another hedgehog nest just over here actually, and this one is a little bit more out in the open. So what I've done, I've actually made a little roof for this one using some house bricks and then putting some wood across the top. That way it's going to keep that hedgehog nest nice and dry and free from all the snow and rain and stuff, and him or her can remain nice and snug under there until next spring. This is a really old insect hotel that got given as a gift some years back, and it's had lots of bugs in there. It's got all these little holes and things and bamboo canes for solitary bees or solitary wasps, and there's a bit in the middle here where you can put lots of straw and old leaf debris and stuff, so all those beneficial insects can hibernate in there during the winter time, things like lacewings and ladybirds, and they can come out again in the spring and start eating all those aphids and be your gardening allies all the way through next spring and summer. You don't actually need to buy a bug hotel. You can so easily make one yourself just using an old pot. It might be an old plastic pot or a terracotta pot. In fact, this one is actually cracked and broken, so it's not much use as a flower pot. But when you stuff it full of all these different bits and pieces, seed heads, moss, pine cones, bits of bamboo cane, leaf debris, all those kind of things, that creates an environment for all different insects to hibernate in there, stay nice and safe for the winter. And again, things like ladybirds and lacewings and stuff can stay safe in there. They can come out again next spring, start breeding, and they can predate on all those things that annoy you, like black fly, white fly, and green fly. We think about feeding the birds during the winter, don't we? But an important thing you need to do is to keep a source of fresh water, especially if you can keep it unfrozen, just so the birds can hydrate themselves through the winter time. I've got a little bird bath here. Another important thing to do is keep that nice and clean. Make sure there's not all debris and gunge and stuff building up in there, because that will keep that water fresh. It'll avoid spreading diseases and things to the birds. And it's just nice when they wash themselves in it as well to have nice, fresh, clean water. We've just had a really cold period as well, and you can see here there's actually ice on top of here, and I've tried my best to actually try and keep that from forming one solid lump, so that even if there's some ice in there, the birds can still get to the water around the edge, they can still have a drink, which is really, really important. And again, keep this nice and clean, keep away all the leaf debris. If there's any sort of gunge or algae or anything like that building up, give it a good scrub, put some fresh. We've talked about hydrating the birds, giving them lots and lots of fresh water, but obviously they need to eat as well. And there's so many options for the birds. First of all, there's fat balls or fat blocks. They're really good, give them lots and lots of energy. Mealworms as well, really huge favorite of all sorts of different birds. And then a mixture here of mealworms, but also different grains and seeds as well, full of carbohydrates, full of proteins. So on those really cold days when the birds need loads and loads of energy, they've got all these different food sources to keep them going, to keep their energy levels going. And of course, they've got that lovely fresh water to all wash it down with as well. Check out the blog on my website, adamwoolcott.co.uk, for more information and details about feeding the birds and how to look after them through the winter time. Another thing you can do to help wildlife in the wintertime is just leave some areas unkempt and rough and bushy with lots of seed heads and things like that. That way they've got places to hide, places to feed, and places to shelter from the really cold weather. Although I leave some areas in the garden wild, I also like to have some open, clear areas, because I've discovered certain birds like blackbirds and thrushes and so on, they like to go about between the plants. They like to peck through the soil and look for grubs and worms and different insects and larvae and eggs to get a nice little boost through the winter time. I hope Horace the Hedgehog and myself have given you some ideas and inspiration of how to look after wildlife through the winter time. It may be hedgehogs, it may be birds, it may be insects, but in these changing times, they all need a little bit of extra care. So if we can just do these little extra things and get them through the winter, they'll all benefit all the way through into next spring and summer.